Today we're learning about basic font tools to create a social media ad. So the first ad I'm going to make is for Instagram, which is 1200 by 1200, but you should always check because they change every single year. I have a 1-800-Flowers logo that I got off the internet and this picture. So let's see how big this is. We want to make it the correct size for Instagram so it doesn't crop anything for us. Couple places you can look. Usually down here, it's going to tell you this is 4,600 pixels by 3,400 pixels. You can also go to image size, and it's going to tell you, you can either look right here at the pixels. You could actually say in inches or millimeters or whatever you need. But this is not the right size. So we could try and resize it here. Let's say we go 1200, and I have this locked, you'll see right here. So you can see we would have a bit, this is a problem because this is not big enough. So we cannot change this image size using the image size. So let's go ahead and cancel that. The easiest way to do this would be to use the crop tool. Now, if you don't see the crop tool where you see it on mine, it may be because you're in a different workspace. I am in the graphics and web workspace. So I'm going to click graphics and web. If you go ahead and set up your computer like that, you'll be able to find things where I have them. So normally the crop tool is going to default to have no choices, and you would just manually kind of try and get 1200 pixels. That's not what we're going to do today. Go to width and height and resolution, and we know that we want 1200 by 1200. The default right now is 72 dpi for the web. So that is the basic size of Instagram. And we could go ahead and crop it just like that if we want, but I want more space to be able to write some things. So I'm going to go ahead and make this, change my composition and kind of move this around. I think that would look kind of good. So then we'd have space to put the logo. But if we were to crop right now, we would have just nothing right there. So I'm going to turn on content aware crop. And we did another video about that if you want to learn more about it. And it is going to fill this in with the Photoshop content aware fill. So I'm going to say okay. And let's zoom in, alt scroll. It did a pretty good job. Now it has one problem right here. Like it's not quite as good as the regular content aware fill. So I'm going to use any of the other tools that we'd learned in the other video, like the healing brush tool or the clone tool. I think actually the patch tool would be the easiest. So I'm going to grab the patch tool and just draw a generic selection around it and tell it, please make that area look like this area. And Control D to get rid of the marching ants. That looks pretty good. Now always zoom in and see if you see any other little weird issues it might have done. I think everything looks pretty good. So now we know if we go back up to image size, image size, we now have 1200 by 1200 pixels at 72. And we've got space where we can put our logo and some words. So let's go look at our logo. Adobe has a lot of great selection tools, and you can grab those easily just by clicking on any of the regular selection tools. It's going to pop up here with select subject. Now this works great with photos, but it does not with logos. When I click select subject, it does not understand what's going on here. So you cannot use the Adobe Sensei to select a logo. Let's Control D to get rid of the marching ants. We could try, say, object selection, which is one of the new tools. Let's see if it does it. Yeah, at this point in time, they just don't understand what's going on. This could get better as Adobe keeps working on it, but right now, that's mainly for people. So we're going to have to use different tools. We have the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool that we learned in the other video. The quick selection tool, let me zoom in. We could just start grabbing, and remember, you don't have to hit shift, just if the plus sign is on, we could sit here and try and grab all of this stuff. If you make a mistake like this, you would just click alt and the minus comes up to get rid of any parts. Remember that the quick selection tool, you just click and drag on what you want. You could do that, but that's going to take us a while. That is not the best way to do this. I'm going to Control D. I'm going to use the OG tool for selection, which is the magic wand tool. What we have is, this is called camera ready art, meaning it's just the art over white. So this is very easy to do with the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool is just going to grab any specific color that you click on. If I click on the purple, it is going to select the purple. If I click on the green, it's going to click the green. So we have a big, huge area of white. I'm just going to click the white. Now, the problem with this is we have some holes here in the 0 and between the O's and the E. So there's a couple of ways we could deal with that. We could click the Shift key, and you'll see there's a little plus sign on my cursor now, and then I can add whatever I want to add. That absolutely would work. The other way we could do this is to use contiguous. I'm going to undo what I just did and get rid of the marching ants, Control D. And I'm going to see this button right here called contiguous. If you turn off contiguous, it is going to get anything that is white that is not touching each other. Think about the United States and that Alaska and Hawaii are part of the United States, but they are not touching the other states. They are not contiguous. So if we click on this with contiguous off, it is going to get Alaska and Hawaii. Everything that is white, even if it's not touching another piece of white. So that looks pretty good. All the little holes are filled in. I am now going to put on a layer mask right here. Now that is the opposite of what we wanted because we selected the white, but that's fine. In Properties, I'm going to go down to the bottom and click Invert. Perfect. So now we have the logo ready to go. I'm going to grab my Move tool and grab anywhere in the middle of the logo, click and drag up until put my mouse over where I'm going. Don't let go of the mouse yet. Put the mouse down. You see there's a plus sign. When I let go of the mouse, my logo has now transferred here. Now it's a little too big for this. That's fine. We can Control T, which will get the transform controls, and then just click and drag it down. You do not have to hit Shift. It will stay in the proper aspect ratio. Make this a little bit smaller. And when we think we've got it the way we want it, go ahead and hit OK or Enter. Now, one thing I want you to notice when you're making compositions like this is the smart guides. You see the little pink thing that is appearing on the screen. That's called a smart guide. It's telling me that is centered both horizontally and vertically. If you do not see the little pink lines, you have got it turned off. You can find it in View. You must have Extras turned on, and you must have the smart guides turned on, and that will help you once you start adding other things to the composition. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Type tool. I would not make a text box in Photoshop because they cause all kind of problems. Just believe me. The best way to do it is just click and then start typing. So I'm going to go ahead and click somewhere over here. And it's going to put down something that you can barely see. You can see that it has typed lorem ipsum. If you don't know what lorem ipsum is, it is just placeholder text. So we're gonna delete that in just a second. 12-point font is very, very small. That is what you're used to seeing if you print out something for Microsoft Word. It's kind of small. So let's back up. I'm gonna undo that. So I just throw that piece of type away in the trash can. And this time I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So in the print world, 72 type font is 1 inch. So we'll be able to see that a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on 72 before I click the button so I can see better. So when I click now, that's bigger and you can see it. So right now it just says lorem ipsum. It's just showing us what it would say. We can start typing. So I'm going to put for someone special. And there you go, just basic Mirrored Pro. And when you start moving it around, you will see the smart guides are appearing, helping me line it up with other elements that are there. So smart guides are great. All right, I don't really like this font. Let's talk about what we can do with it. First off, I said I don't really like Mirrored Pro. So I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to see all the different fonts that are available for me. So you can start just kind of clicking through them. We want to find something that's a little bit girly because this is about flowers. Actually, I kind of liked. If you have a lot of fonts on your computer like I do, this might take you a really long time. One thing I like to do is just highlight it in blue and then just scroll my mouse. So I'm just kind of moving my mouse wheel and it's just going through all of them. One thing that's going to make this easier is if you click right here, you can tell it what type of class of font you want. Now, this that we're seeing on the screen right now is a sans serif font. Serifed fonts would be something like, say, Times New Roman. Let me put it on all classes again and make this Times New Roman real quick. That is a serifed font. Serifed fonts have these little serifs on the side. That makes a serifed font. So if you want a serifed font, you could just go and say, please show me any serifed font that I have. Sans serif is going to not have those little things, more of a block font. Script, whatever you want. Let's actually go with a handwritten, so maybe it'll look like somebody wrote a note for someone special. And then I'm just going to kind of look. Now, these are sometimes hard to read. I don't particularly like them, but I'm just showing them to you. I'm going to choose this Pristina. And that's, you know, kind of girly. So the size, you can either come up here and actually type it in, say 300. That's really big. Or notice when you put your mouse right over the T, it changes your mouse into a little slider. So now I can click and drag to the left to get smaller or to the right to get bigger. So that's the way I like to do it. I'm going to make it about that big. So that's about 100. And now let's change the color. I'm just going to kind of move it with my move tool and change the color. So while it's selected, click right here on color, and you could change whatever color you want. Now, I do not like colored font personally, but if you want to, you can. Another thing that's good to do is when you move your mouse off the color picker, you're going to get the eyedropper tool. So we could choose a color actually from this design. I hate red font. Let's choose kind of this pink, just so I can show you. So, okay, maybe we like that. I'm going to say okay, and you can see it's changed to that color pink. So one of the problems I'm seeing is that the word special is too far away from the other words. So let's talk a little bit about kerning and leading. Tracking, which is this button right here, if I click and drag to the right, it's going to move the spaces between each letter. So that is called tracking. I'm going to put this back on nothing. Kerning is when you want to do that, but you want to do it only between two letters. Let me scroll in. So let's say we don't like the space between the O and the F. If I grab the type tool and just click once to put my cursor there, now when I go to kerning, click and drag to the left. You see that it's moving just, I'm going to do a lot so you can see it. It's moving just those little bits. So tracking does that for all of the letters. Kerning is just going to do it between one or two. Say we want to do it right here. I'm going to click once and then just move that P over just a little bit. So that is tracking and kerning. But what I think we need here is called leading. Leading is the difference between the lines because I think special is too far away. Leading is this one right here that says auto. So I'm going to make it really dramatic so you can see. Do you see it moved them closer? I just think they need to be a little bit close, not that close. And that's for proximity. So I think that looks better. All right, let's zoom out. Actually, that's a little bit too much now that I'm zoomed out. There we go. I also think that it looks strange to be left justified like this. So that would be in paragraph. It's going to default to be left justified. Let me show you what center does. Now, it's not centering it on the screen. It's centering it within itself. So you could do centered layout. I'm going to try right justified. Because to me, that makes sense if I want to kind of tuck it in there. So that's in paragraph. That's basic justification and alignment. So now that I've done that, I want to add a little bit of flair to it because I don't have a lot of contrast between these. I'm going to add a layer style, which is right here in the FX. These are the basic layer styles. So most people would add a drop shadow. So I'm going to click drop shadow. And you can move this off to the side and see what it looks like. I don't particularly like that, but there it is. It defaults sometime to be in multiply. I tend to be able to see it better in normal blend mode. Let's bring the opacity down to soften it some. Distance is going to be that, obviously. Your spread is kind of how big it is. And size is going to be how fluffy it is, if that makes sense. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that it has added a drop shadow at the bottom of this layer. So I can turn that on and off to see what it would look like. I think it looks horrible, but I'm just showing you. If you want to change it, double click on it, and it's going to bring that menu back up. And you can actually see all of the other ones that are there. I'm going to turn the drop shadow off right now because I think it would be better to look at stroke. So click on stroke, and that is going on the out. Make sure it's on the outside right here. That's adding just a little bit of something on the outside. You, of course, could do both of them together. Let's tell you what, let's add a color. Let's change the color. I'm going to grab the lighter pink. And then I'm going to have the stroke and the drop shadow. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Let me hit OK. And notice we have two things on here, so we could turn the stroke back off, that kind of thing. In fact, I'm not liking this at all. So I'm actually going to turn this font off and let's try this again. I think it would be better to maybe try to match the font of our logo. So there's a tool Photoshop has. We're going to go to Type, Match Font. And this is going to come up, kind of move it off to the side. And I want to tell it, I want to try to match the font in flowers. Now, it's not a perfect system, but it can help you. So right now it's telling me these two fonts are actually on my system, the Oswald fonts, and I think they look pretty good. They also have given us some other suggestions that are part of the Adobe fonts that are online. If you want one of those, you would just click here to load it into your system. I think Oswald Semi-Bold looks pretty good. So I'm going to click on that to let it know I'm going to try that one. I'm going to say OK. And it has put Oswald up here. So now when I start typing, it's going to go ahead and know that I wanted Oswald. So let me type this again. Now, notice that it remembered from the last time, it went ahead and made it right justified. And it left the tracking the way I had it. I actually think that might be a little too close for this one. There we go. Now, to me, that looks a lot better. We could also add a few things to it. I'm going to choose the color of the 1-800 flowers. Yeah. And let's add some layer styles. How about an outer glow? I actually think a dark drop shadow on a dark font looks bad. I'm going to add just a light outer glow because I think that might look good. Now, right now you're not seeing anything because it's white and it's over white. Let me change it to something crazy just so you can see it. There it is. You see it. I think it might look good. Let's grab the green. So same thing. Your color picker is going to appear. And I like to do a barely noticeable, just a little tiny bit. I'm going to turn this preview on and off so you can see. It just adds a little pop of something, maybe a little bit more than that. There we go. And so now our ad is ready to export and put on Instagram. So let's do another one really quick. If I went to this Folgers logo and tried the same thing as we did before, we already know that select subject's not going to work. So I'm going to turn off contiguous and click on it. Now, that's not going to work on this one because there's actually white in this logo, so we cannot use the contiguous deal. I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to turn contiguous back on, click the white, but the problem we have now is we have little leftovers right here and here. So Shift, click, Shift, click. And let's go ahead and add our layer mask that needs to be inverted, invert. That's ready to go. Let's look at our background. We have this background. Now this one I'm going to make a Facebook ad, which today is 1200 by 630. So I'm going to do the same thing, go to crop, and I'm going to turn it to 1200 by 630. And I want to put this kind of off to the side so I have room for my logo. Hit OK. Let's try content aware. Now on this one, this is a lot more complex photo, so the content aware fill in here did not do a very good job. We could, of course could go back and try and fix this, but I think what I would do is I'm going to back up and I'm going to crop it again with content aware off and just leave that. So I'm going to leave content aware off, and then I'm just going to use regular content aware fill. So tell it, I want to fill this in, go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. We learned this in the other video. And this has got a much better dialogue. You can see that when we're in auto, it knows that I don't want to take this and add it in. This looks a lot better than the one that was just happened. This is just a stronger AI. You can minus anything that it might be picking up and adding into that. This looks a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And let's go get that logo and pull it over and see what it looks like. It's way too big, so we're going to Control T and move it down. One of the problems that sometimes happens, I'm going to hit OK. One of the problems that sometimes happens when you're cutting out logos is it will leave this light white 1 pixel around the edge. So always when I'm cutting out a logo, I usually do this beforehand, but I just wanted to show you that it does this sometimes. Let's go back to our logo real quick. What's happening is it's leaving 1 pixel around the edges and you can't see it. So always when I do a logo, I always go to my mask and get a solid black brush and just click around the edges to get rid of anything that might be there. Now, the easiest way to do this is drawing a straight line in Photoshop is you click once, shift, and click again. Now, you can't see it, but it added a straight line. Here, I'll do it here for you. Click once, shift, click again. You see it drew a straight line. You back up, Control Z. So if you go around and do this on everything, even if you can't see it, it's probably there. So now let's pull this over again. The last thing I wanted to show you is any of these layer effects can also be added to any layer, including this logo. If I wanted to add an outer glow, just to make this show up, oh, it remembers the green. Let's put that at white. Just a little bit of a glow. I'm going to turn the preview on and off just to pop it back from that background because we have two dark things that are against each other. So you can add any of these layer styles to any layer. So then we would add maybe the best part of waking up and we would be ready to put this on social media. There you go.